All right, my man Chance is here with me again today, or I guess I'm with him, however you want to phrase that. But Chance, today we are going to talk about new construction, like we always do, here in the North Texas area, and the Dallas-Fort Worth metropolitan. And you and I were just chatting a little bit off camera about just incentives and how inventory right now, at the time of this taping, inventory is a real thing. A lot of builders have a lot of homes, and we're seeing some crazy things, or you're seeing some crazy things. I know we're doing crazy things as a lender. Fill me in on what you're seeing. Like right now, how is today different with inventory? Let's back up. As a home builder, what when you guys have inventory, what is that mindset shift to go from somebody like, we'll go use COVID, right? Everybody remembers the COVID days where things are going crazy and there were 38 home buyers trying to buy the one home. Today that's changed. What are you seeing today as the inventory is stacking up? How does that change your mentality? How does that change the corporate mentality of a home builder? Fill me in just kind of on the sentiment of the market right now before we get too deep into the incentives piece.
Yeah, so I mean, there's so many different parts to why inventory is the way that it is right now. It's no surprise that a lot of home builders have a huge amount of inventory, and whenever that happens, most of the time they're going to find a way to get rid of it. So they're going to be promoting different things, whether it be price improvements or different incentives or different programs to help get buyers through the door. A lot of the times they're even going to offer additional commission bonuses to agents. So good opportunity if they have good buyers to come out and look at these new home construction communities. So there's a few different things that builders are going to try and do on that front. And for communities that I'm in, like myself, we have a lot of competition between builders. So you'll see kind of those similarities across a lot of these new builders, especially national builders, of what they're able to do in terms of rates and all those sorts of things.
Yeah, so to your point, builders, in order to stay in business, need to sell homes. Unlike Joe homeowner, who sells because maybe they want to, the market's good. And certainly there's some things like whether it's divorce or job relocation, things like that could force Joe homeowner to do something. But to your point, when you're a home builder, the only way to get money coming in the door is to sell a home, right? So it's an expense until that time, right? So there's carrying costs for their own bank loans, for the electricity bills, all the stuff they need to do to carry this and to pay good people like you to be on staff. So they have to sell homes even when there's not as many buyers out there chomping at the bit. So to your point, you said there's a variety of things that builders can do. Let's kind of hit those on a high level, and then we'll take each one and go a little deeper. What are two or three things that you see builders doing to entice buyers to say if there is somebody out there looking, what do the builders do that kind of, I don't say it's an unfair advantage, but what do they do that a general Joe homeowner can't do? Or what are some of the incentives you're seeing as far as how they get structured?
Yeah, so some of the advantages for having being in new home construction and especially in a market to where inventory is high is first going to be getting leads through the door. And a huge way that we do that is through agent bonuses. So again, you'll see lots of different commission bonuses that will pop through for different builders, some being 1%. At one point in my community, we even had a 4% commission on top of your standard 3% commission. So there were some agents that were eligible to receive to
Wow.
a 7% commission on some of our homes. Now we're not doing that right now because luckily we've been able to sell through a lot of our inventory, but it just goes to show that it's a huge opportunity for agents on the first tier. The second one, again, price improvements. You're going to see lots of different builders come through and maybe drop pricing anywhere between 20 to 70 to $80,000. I've seen some communities that are here locally that have really tanked in terms of their prices. Now, again, that's going to be kind of hyper local depending upon what area that you're in, how that particular market is doing, because as you and I both know, Mark, DFW is a super hyper specific market. Even the sub cities of DFW and those suburbs are going to have really different markets depending upon where you're looking. So that's one huge thing because I mean there's still growth in DFW. There's lots of businesses coming here. There's lots of I mean all sorts of things coming here. So those are some huge things. And then again, like we talked about incentives, which I think is a whole nother portion of this that we can get into.
Yeah, so let's hit on the two you just mentioned because I do think the incentives start getting a little more complicated, which you just described as very straightforward. The agent, meaning realtor, giving extra realtor commission. So for those that don't know, the idea is that if a realtor is out there, you play to the I'm gonna. I wish I could choose better words, but we'll say the greed factor, right? To where if somebody's out there and they're like, "Hey, I can get 3% commission on this deal," which is, let's say it's a $300,000 home. If it's 3%, it's $9,000, and all of a sudden you can double that and then some, go to 7%. You're now talking from 9 grand to 21,000 bucks, right? So if a realtor says, "Man, I got a buyer that I can influence," and not influence that are going to make them buy something, but where they go looking, right? They might say, "Hey, here's an option. We can go see Chance and we can look at a really good opportunity." And to be very fair, a lot of realtors, and I don't know what percentage, but I would say a lot, maybe even most, would be willing to say, "Hey, Mr. Buyer, let's figure out how this is going to win for both of us," right? Because they are getting those extra commissions. That is known. It's not something shady. The builders aren't paying them under the table. It is absolutely known. So that's a conversation that you can have with your agent. The second one, the price drop. Chance, elaborate on that. So the price drop, I can think of two or three different reasons why a builder might drop their prices. Give me, you go one, I'll go one, and then we'll see. Actually, I say three. I think I probably got about two. Why would they drop their prices? What do you think? Well, how does that help them? Because obviously they make less money, to the point of maybe making zero money or even losing some money.
Yeah.
Why would they drop their price? What's one thing you can think of what you guys do or you get be in the industry? Why do you drop your prices?
So some home builders are going to drop prices because they're not going to be able to start new ones. Simply put, we're in a business of building homes and then selling those homes. So if the homes that we currently have available aren't able to be sold for one reason or another, market or other factors, we're not going to be able to start new homes. That alters a business plan, and ultimately, that's why you see some stagnation amongst the market right now.
That's a really good point, and that's again to be clear, guys. They have a bank line. Like they builders don't just write a check and pay cash for a home, and so the bank may say we'll allow you to have X number of deals financed. Well, at some point, they just need to get that sucker gone so they can start a new one. And maybe they built one in the wrong model, the wrong floor plan. Maybe it's a bad lot. Maybe it backs up to something that it shouldn't. So there's a lot of reasons why the builder might drop. The other part could be, let's just pick a 600,000 price point. If it's a $608,000 home, maybe they drop it to 599 just in case somebody's search stops at 600. So just because a home gets dropped in price, or by the way, maybe they just didn't price it right. Maybe they're just overpriced in the market and they just didn't know because it's their first time to be in the market or something of that nature. So I guess my point to say in asking the question, I understand a drop in price isn't necessarily mean you're buying a bad product. It just means that they have a motivation that is not necessarily known to you and me on the layman side why they're doing it. But I would just want to make sure it's very apparent that a drop in price can't seems like a good thing. And this is now going to transition to our second piece without the incentives. On the mortgage side, a lot of times we advise folks not to take the drop in price. There's a lot of fun things you can do with that extra cash. So in my example I just gave, I made it up, 614 or whatever, 615 price, 615,000. They dropped to 599. So let's say there's 16 grand in there. We can do something different with that money. So Chance, sorry, give me a quick overview of the incentives that are out there because I know they can be structured in different ways. Hit me with what you're seeing now and what you've seen in the past.
Yeah, so I mean, I know that there are certain builder lenders out there that are able to come down to like the high threes, which is a huge thing right now. I mean, you haven't really seen interest rates that low in quite some time, so you're going to start seeing a lot of that. Now, even outside of that, you are also going to see a lot of max seller contributions. Instead of us just offering a certain X amount of dollars towards closing cost or a certain percentage of whatever the purchase price is, you might now have a max seller contribution for different loan types. Like, pretty much all of those homes that I've seen across the board are going to have 6%, which can be used towards rate, closing cost, get the buyers where they need to be in terms of payment, and make sure that they come with as little out of pocket as possible.
Yeah, so again, guys, going back to the what Chance just said, when you have money, you can do a lot of different things with it, but seller concessions. So just to be very clear, seller, in this case, the builder concessions for loan programs have limits to how much they can just throw at you. So as much as the builder wants to say, "Hey, here's 100 grand, good for you," and I'm being facetious, obviously, it's a ton of money. Here's 20,000 bucks. depending on the loan type, which we won't get into now, the lender will help you determine based on your program, what you're doing. That's no matter how much the builder wants to give you, that can be limiting to say how much they can do, whether it's 3% or if it's investment property, 2%. So it can be as little as 2%, it can be as big as 9. And so there are ways around that to where you do forward commitments. Again, another topic, another time. And that's how a lot of times, to Chance's point, you're seeing rates at 3.99. We even have some we're advertising at 1.99, if you can believe it. It's crazy. So there
Yeah.
are really big incentives on what's doing. So tell me this, kind of now shifting to the buyer's mentality or the perception. So incentives, we just talked about, they can do, you can buy down the rate, whether it's permanent or temporary or both, hence the 1.99 promos we've seen. Whether it's the reduction in rate, higher commissions, all the closing costs paid, like all those things can be done. As we kind of covered the high level. Tell me what do you think it feels like, knowing that you're not the buyer, but you work with them every day when they come in your door? What's their perception? Because I can see that being somewhat difficult on your side as the builder, because somebody walks in the door and is like, what's the catch? What do you mean I get $40,000 off this price and another 20 grand in closing costs, and my rate gets to be 1%? Making this up, right? Giving away the farm. But do you see a lot of that, or am I making that problem up?
No, I mean, I definitely think that there are some people that are really surprised and in a good way of like, oh, is this actually possible? Is this real? And so there's a huge trust element that comes in from my part, to let them know, yeah, this is exactly the way that it's supposed to be. So I mean, it is a really good time for buyers. As you and I both know, being in this market, especially in this season right now, post August, post when school starts, things tend to slow down a little bit as we head into winter. And then especially with all of the chaos of the economy right now, and the way that the world can be sometimes, we're seeing some, like I said, stagnation. So it really is a great opportunity for buyers that are in the market to find a really awesome deal that you may have not been able to earlier this year.
Yeah, and I think the answer, I got folks asking me all the time, is this a good time to buy? And I know you and I've done had some conversations about this as well, but to me, the good time to buy is when you're ready to buy, right? Yes, there's a financial component. Certainly, nobody wants to catch the falling knife. Nobody wants to buy at the peak of the market. Historically, long term, real estate has proven to be a good investment long term. Now, again, if somebody plans on buying and selling next year, to be determined. But at the end of the day, which you guys as an industry, again, as home builders, by offering these incentives, one, they're real, right? Because I get folks asking me like, hey, they're offering this, that seems too good to be true. It can be, but in most cases, it's probably pretty legit and valid because again, builders have to sell homes to stay in business. So a lot of times they may say, look, we're going to lose some money on this one. We'll make it up on this community or this other home over here or somewhere in another state. Because I know the big nationals, like you said, they're just going to write off this market and say, man, we missed. Like this state, we just missed. We're going to get rid of our inventory, but we're banking over here. So to that, it's kind of like robbing Peter to pay Paul. But going back to your part, it's building the trust. It's understanding that we're educating the people, the potential buyers and the buyers to say, here's what it really is. So going to now, to wrap a bow and put it on this, from an incentive standpoint with the inventory like it is, Chance, what do you think is something that buyers should take away, not just from this conversation, but just in general? How should they approach the incentives? What do you have any suggestions or advice for what they should do coming into you to say, here's what you guys should ask, or here's what you should look for? Do you have any opinion of what that would look like if today if somebody's looking to buy that new construction?
Yeah, definitely. I think from a buyer's perspective, when you're looking at walking into new home construction, and kind of with what we just talked about, it's no secret that the market has kind of shifted from where it was. What I do see is a lot of people coming in asking for a certain price. They want the price to be lower by $20,000. And while that's great, is that actually going to help you in terms of your goals? And that's again where those incentives fall into play. Yes, you can decrease the price by $20,000 and we might be able to make that work, but it may be more beneficial for you to ask for some of those seller contributions in order to get things covered, like a rate reduction or money towards closing costs. A lot of the times it's going to help you and go a lot further than just doing a $20,000 price reduction and not having access to any incentives at all.
I'm glad you said that, man, because we say that all the time. The reality is, in the order of operation, I think reducing the price is probably the last thing I recommend. Really and truly, yes. Number one is use the money to pay for your closing cost. Keep money in your bank. Money in the bank is a good thing. That's why I will tell you that now. And in terms of then what to do with, okay, money's paid for, closing costs are done. Now what? I like temporary buy downs, not permanent buy downs in this market, because when rates are projected to eventually go lower, whether that's 12 months, 24 months, or 36 months, the reality is the Fed in this market at the time of the taping, rates are appear to start, in the near future, hopefully next 1 to 3 years, be trending down. So I don't love the idea of spending a ton of money to buy down a rate that you might ultimately be able to refinance into later. So I do like temporary buy downs. Permanent buy downs to be determined on the market, but then last is to reduce the sales price. Those are my personal opinions. Typically, the math will back those up, but as a lender, I think those are really good things to do. So at the end of the day, is this a good time to buy? The answer is, Chance and I both agree. One, I think it's a phenomenal time to buy, right?
Yeah.
Because again, the inventory's there, the builders are willing to make a deal, and when rates do come down, you'll get a lot more folks coming out of the woodworks, and all of a sudden that inventory gets eaten up pretty quick, and the builders are less likely to make a deal. And remember, the interest rate can be temporary, right? You can always refinance out of it. So buy today, and you're thinking, well, I'm going to wait next year when rates come down. If you wait next year, everybody else is going to start buying when you're buying. So I think it is a great time to buy. I'm not trying to just sell a home. I just think if it's the right time for you and your family, calling somebody like Chase or Chance, sorry, buddy, calling somebody like Chance to say, let's go do this and let's get a home. I think it's a clear winner. I assume you agree, but any last final thoughts, buddy? Take this home for us. You wrap this up for the day.
Yeah, come on out and visit us. I actually got my website going, so you can find me at contactchance.com.
Love it. Contactchance.com. I love that, buddy. I'm happy you did that. I know it's been a few weeks we've been talking about that. I'm glad you got it
Yeah.
done. Contactchance.com, mortgagemark.com. We're out. Thanks for joining us as always. Chance, thanks for having me today.
Thanks, Mark.